Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Zombie Train, episode 221. I am your host, Ellis, otherwise known as Train Man, of course. And this week, very briefly, of course, at the beginning of the show, I'd say that if you want to see this footage in real time with live commentary, go check out the Under Construction episode that came out, or that's coming out at about the same time. So if I go back to Zombie Train episode 200, Train 200, here we'll be talking about the question that was laid here by, I believe, Mike Pericolosi? Yes. And it is... where is it? Did you guys ever use Decapods like SLSF 1630 or Great Western 90? Now, this is fun because I can talk about the detour to Strasbourg, and honestly, surprisingly enough, that is not what came to mind. When, in 2012, when the Great Panic happened, Strasbourg was really the last thing on my mind. I didn't even know very much about the railroad as a whole. I wasn't fascinated with it in nearly the same way as you might expect someone with the love of trains to be. So, the places nearest me were the ones that I didn't tend to think about. Strasbourg, Essex, and for whatever reason, Steamtown was the one I knew particularly well. So that's where I went, right off the bat. It did provide me with a very capable engine, but in the end, going to Strasbourg might have saved me a little bit of trouble, because as I've talked about, they have a very, very capable machine shop and locomotive facility. So it's, it was a target, and to further that, to better that, not only were, the Amish did not fare so well in terms of numbers, but they were the ones that did survive, which were a handful, when we managed to clear the area, and they sort of came out of hiding, they were very knowledgeable and helpful with how to do things in a world without electricity. Now that area of expertise was frankly excessive, but very, very, very helpful, of course. Ivan, number 90, Strasbourg number 90, is not an incredibly speedy engine, but it's a very good engine, and it was cared for very well, as were the other engines there at Steamtown. Or at Strasbourg, sorry, not Steamtown. Not only that, we did have access to a whole host of other engines, which, that whole area became super duper important and very, very well used. As I was going to say, the area is not extremely populated, so it made things easier in terms of getting people in and out and actually getting the area secure. But Ivan did not go very far. No, the other one, SLSF 1630. Now, if I recall correctly, this is an actual Russian decapod. SLSF 1630. Yeah. So, this is, as much as we joke about Ivan being quote-unquote Russian, Frisco 1630 is an actual Russian decapod. Now, Baldwin built, that meant we could access the plans for the engine, but due to the fact that it was, regauged and converted and, basically as a sort of piecemeal engine almost, the locomotive was not the easiest thing to work with. It was kind of odd, it got even stubbier of drivers. Now, originally we wanted to what is this? Where is it? The Illinois Railway Museum. Originally we wanted to use it to sort of be at the head of the Illinois Railway Museum. It's hold on. But Union, Illinois the issue with the area is you're not too far from major population centers. I'm trying to recall what was going on with this, because this was the, oh, we'll go here and we'll get tons of stuff. And there was definitely tons of stuff we could get our hands on pretty easily, and it's very well taken care of, the area. But the deal with the area is it's very flat, very open, and you're sandwiched between, Rockford, which was a decent size, but of course Chicago is fairly close. And that made Union a very, very dangerous place. Despite being so useful in the end with everything they have. We've actually found some stuff here that was a little bit extra. Like, we didn't expect to find as much as we did, even though we full well knew what we were getting when we arrived. The trackbook is a little bit weird sometimes. With the area, there's some rather sharp turns, etc. But all things considered, the Rare Museum was very accessible, and with maybe one switching maneuver, we were able to get almost everything out and available for use. And they've got a lot of stuff, so that became a hub after it went through some major changes. So that was the, okay, we'll go through Chicago, or we won't go through Chicago, but we will sort of search Chicago for survivors, which we did as best we could. A lot of time was actually spent by people on the L's in Chicago, and going from building to building without bothering with going on the ground. Because that's where all the danger was. Of course, the zombie sees you and you've got an entourage, but zombies were never that fast in water, and if you can get to the water side, then we could take you away in a boat, which is what happened a couple of times. The funny thing is, and we're a long way. Chicago was a long way from any place where we were based. You think about Toronto was our, one of our biggest strongholds, probably our biggest in terms of population. And you have to go through, 3 whole Great Lakes to get to Chicago if you're on a boat. And it was, okay, we're going to park up our boat close to one of the nuclear plants that was along the other side of Chicago. I can't remember where it is now, but I should be talking about that at some point, because it's important. There was an incident there. Well, actually, no, that wasn't the one with the incident. There were people there, and they were very, very helpful. And so they kept our boat that we used for Lake Michigan. And it was, we're not going to bring a train into the city, but you can run in on, we had a motor car, and then we had some other stuff. We wanted to build a little battery-powered engine so that it would be quiet. But one of the things that we liked to do, actually, and this was tricky, because you had to really keep tabs on it. If you wanted to sneak into somewhere by train, not make a lot of noise, you used a compressed air loco or a steam loco, like a compressed steam locomotive, so it's quiet, doesn't have much stack torque. And that actually helped quite a bit to get us into places. So there was a compressed air loco that we used. It was actually just a steam. It was we pumped it full of steam, but we rode that thing in. We drove that thing in, and then people would very quietly exit wherever they were. One of the times was in Union Station. The other time was 11th Street Station around here. And, sometimes it took some finagling to get onto these areas, or to get into these areas, but then you'd get up on the loop and you'd be pretty much home free. You'd be fairly safe. We did have to rescue an engine at one point. We did have to rescue that engine at one point, I should say. But we had, once we got Evie, which she was the brakeman the brakeman, so to speak, in the pass. She was a Chicagoan. I kind of came across her, and then she joined on with us because she really had nowhere else to go. So she knew the city pretty damn well. Unfortunately, she already had enemies there, so that was an issue. We didn't expect her to still have enemies, but she did, according to the people that were with her. And so she would take people around Chicago, and we did a lot of scavenging, but we really did a lot of looking for people. Again, unfortunately, they were few and far between in a city like that. But we did manage to get some people, and the regroup point would always be the Railroad Museum, which is a decent distance away, but all things considered, it's far enough away that it's safe, and it's large enough. It's large enough that it's not only easy to find, but can hold a decent number of people. The town of Union was easily secured and easily, sort of watched. And additionally, once we got the people there, the fields could feed them, and the museum kept them busy. So, that was the use of that. 1630, that engine did a lot of running in the, sort of nearby area, as well as well, basically whatever we could run out there. So once we got, okay, here's the thing that's nice. Admittedly, it doesn't go very far, but when we got there, we started changing it over. The Little Joe that runs there is one of the only operating electric engines in the United States that's not on a main line. And so that meant, we sort of got there and we were thinking about, well, what can we run? What's here that works already? And there's this Little Joe, it runs on these power lines. Okay, well, how are we going to get power? Well, when we befriended the guys at the nuclear plant, we got them to crank out enough voltage to hit the IRM, the Illinois Railroad Museum. And then we just sort of got to work extending the electrified line as close to Chicago as we could get it. And that was a lot of work, but that's what we put those people to work doing. And that was in no small part to get more people. It was, it was let's see how far we can get this. And the line made it a significant distance of the way there before we said, well, I don't think we need any more people for this. I don't think there's more that we can get out of Chicago. Like, it made it at least a few towns down. Because I remember having to clear out towns. And so 1630 would run these, I don't know what to call them, run these work trains down with supplies to work on these, to work on this electrification project. And then we'd crank up the voltage and run the Little Joe out there for, various purposes. Unfortunately, like I said, the range of that thing was incredibly limited, but it did provide us the ability to get to places nearby when we had that set up without making hardly any noise at all. Obviously, if you do it in the daytime, or you have the headlight on, the zombies will notice you, because they're not that stupid. But if you're running at night, and if you're running with the headlight off, and if you're not, blowing the horn or whatever, you can get away with a lot. You would be surprised with, sneaking by zombies at a range of 100 yards or closer in a locomotive where you're just going by. Nobody's business. And so the thing was, this Route 90 that ran sort of nearby. But anyways, to answer your question before I run out of time here, the we did use these Decapods, and they typically didn't go too far from home. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next week. Trainman out.